What's up guys, and welcome back to the channel. We are currently on top of my ambulance at one of my favorite spots in Salt Lake City. We have these amazing views, but I have a little bonus video for you guys today. And don't worry, my normal video will still be up Wednesday, but this is just a little bit of extra content for you guys. And the reason we have this video is because Pecron sent me their new 1500 watt portable power station. And I wanna go over this thing, show you guys the ins and outs of it. But more importantly, what I wanna do is compare it to my Jackery 1000. I've been using this thing for about the last year and a half or so. I love this thing. I haven't had too many complaints with it. So I kind of want to compare the two, show the differences, and show what I love about each one. Figure out which one works better for my lifestyle and maybe help you guys decide which one would be better for you guys as well. So without further ado, let's break these down and get into it.
Now, I get kind of a special feeling when I look at this Pecron 1500, because I think the name like Peck must be good. Or chest presses. Oh yeah, that's nice. Who needs a gym membership when you can just work out with the Pecron 1500? But oh boy, I ain't done working out yet, and that's when we get the Jackery. And you know, I'm feeling like my buns need a little lifting lately. A couple squats on the ambulance. Oh, that's nice.
All right, first things first. The Pecron is a 1500 watt model, whereas my Jackery is a 1000 watt model, and that's where you may be saying, hey Brandon, that's not a very fair competition. Why would you compare a 500 watt difference in portable power stations?
I was thinking that same question.
Thank you. Well, because they're both the exact same price on their websites. So they're both $1,099, $1,100 for both of these power stations. That's why I feel it's fair to compare the two, because you're spending the exact same dollar amount on both of them. So the Pecron is a 1,461 watt power station with a 3,000 watt peak, whereas the Jackery is 1,002 watts with 2,000 peak watts. When we're talking about weight, the Pecron is 25 pounds and the Jackery is 22 pounds. So there's only a 3-pound difference for the extra 500 watts you get, and also for the 58 amp hours you get out of the Pecron versus the 46 you get out of the Jackery. So you're getting 12 more amp hours and 500 more watts of power out of the Pecron for only a 3-pound difference in weight, which I think is pretty worth it. And probably the most important difference between these two is the charge time. Even though the Pecron has a lot bigger of a battery storage and more power, it only takes 3.5 hours to charge it with a regular wall charger, whereas the Jackery takes 7 hours. And with my lifestyle, I'm pretty impatient most of the time. I'm always on the go, so I don't have time to sit around and let something charge for 7 hours. But if it's half the time for more power and more battery, it just makes a lot more sense for me personally. Here's the big, beefy, massive charger that the Pecron comes with. So this is what allows it to charge in 3.5 hours. It also comes with a regular cigarette lighter plug, so that way you can plug this thing into your car while you're driving. It can charge that way as well. Same feature that the Jackery comes with. And both of these give you the option of solar panels that you can plug right in, let it sit out all day, and they'll charge that way. And this is the little power whip that the Pecron comes with. So you plug this in, plug the solar panels into the end of it, and get all that free energy. But let's get into some of the pros and cons. I'll break those down for you, just some things that I've seen personally, stuff that I've noticed between the two. So as far as DC power goes between the two, they both have a bunch of USB outlets, 4 regular USBs on the Pecron, 2 regular USBs, and 2 USB-Cs on the Jackery. There are no USB-Cs on the Pecron. The way they get around that is this little adapter. So you just plug that in and it converts it down to USB-C. I personally know that I'm gonna lose this thing immediately. So this is one thing I don't really like about the Pecron. I really like the built-in USB-C, but again, you gotta remember you're getting 500 more watts of power, 12 more amp hours of battery for the same cost. And as far as AC power goes, on the side of the Pecron, you got the 3 110 outlets. On the Jackery, they're right across the front. But where the Pecron really wins in this section is on the screen itself. It shows you the time to discharge. So no matter what you have plugged in, it'll show you how long this thing can power whatever you have plugged into. It'll give you an actual time estimate, as well as show you exactly how much power you're drawing. The Jackery, you just plug things in and it just tells you the battery percentage. So I really like to know how long I can leave something plugged in. It also tells you how long you have until this thing is fully charged. So if you have the solar plugged in, or if you have it in the cigarette lighter, or if you have it plugged into the wall outlet, it'll tell you, hey, you have 25 minutes until it's charged, or 3 hours until it's charged. That helps me out a lot versus where you just see the percentage on the Jackery and you kind of have to just guess how long it's going to be until it's charged. So on the Jackery, you have a cigarette lighter right on the front built in, whereas the Pecron does not give you that feature. The way they get around that is they give you this little attachment, so that way you just plug it in right on the side here, and it gives you a few different options of power whips as well as a cigarette lighter option too. I think that was their way of saving space on the internals to keep this thing smaller than its competitors, because this thing is very small, even though it's a lot more powerful and more battery. But let's head down inside the ambulance and put these two to the test. Okay, first test we're gonna do is 2 blenders running at the same time. All right, that was kind of a simple test. That was only 300 watts of power. I thought it'd be a little bit more. Same thing on the Jackery. Got a laptop plugged in, and obviously it can handle this. It's only 133 watts, and it says it can charge it for another 8 hours. I'm not gonna bother plugging into the Jackery because I know it can power it as well, and it's not gonna tell you the runtime. All right, we got a little shop vac that pulls a ton of power. But Brandon, I really like to clean and make a margarita while mixing my favorite smoothie at the same time. What if I need to do all three? Let's test it. All right, shop vac, blender, third blender. And we're not even close to maxing this thing out yet. All right, same test on the Jackery. Shop vac, blender, third blender, second blender. Pepita's just checking over my work real quick, making sure we're staying safe. All right, we got the extension cord plugged into the microwave. Let's see if it can handle it. Yeah. Yep, we're using about 70% of the power, 1,050 watts, but it seems to handle it no problem, and it can run this microwave for 1 hour straight, which is kind of crazy. Same test for the Jackery. Give it a little boom. Oh, it's over, yeah, 1,070 watts it hit, but it's still running it. Well, both of these things were able to handle everything I could throw at them in the ambulance. I'm gonna have to find some bigger appliances to try to max these things out. But for everything that I threw at them, it gives you a great idea of what these can actually handle. Obviously, you're not gonna be running a shop vac in 2 blenders at the same time. So I don't know what you're gonna be plugging into these things that's gonna overload them. But here are my final thoughts on the two. The Jackery, I really like the convenience of having the USB-C and the cigarette lighter plug already built in, so you don't have to plug anything extra. Whereas the Pecron, you have to add the little adapter into the USB slot, and then you have to add the cigarette lighter whip onto the outside. That's just one thing I'm not a huge fan of. But for me personally, I still gotta choose the Pecron. It's such a better bang for your buck. You get those 500 extra watts of power, you get 12 extra amp hours of battery, and the biggest thing for me is the charge time. I can charge this thing in 3.5 hours versus the 7 hours for the Jackery. So it really comes down to what you guys personally need in your life. If you need that fast charging and you're okay with these extra little quirks where you have to add the USB and the whip on the side, but you want that extra power for the same exact price point, definitely go Pecron. If you want a little bit less power and a little bit less battery life, but you want the convenience of having everything just plugged in, then Jackery is definitely the way to go. But either way, you can't go wrong with these power stations. They're both great. They both power a ton of massive appliances. But no matter what your use case scenario is, these things come in handy so much, a lot more than I ever thought. I mean, me living on the road, I use these all of the time, but there's so many other applications, whether you just want to go camping for the weekend, you want to take it on a little trip where you're not going to have power. They're both great. Can't go wrong with either of them. Oh, and actually one more thing I remembered about both of them that I forgot to mention. The Jackery comes with a little flashlight on the side. I don't know who's going to be walking around with a 22-pound flashlight, but the feature is there. I think it's kind of funny. The Pecron does not have a flashlight built in, but it does have a grounding port. A lot of people may not find this useful, but if you're ever plugging any sensitive electronic equipment into this, you can actually ground this to the real earth ground, and it protects all of your appliances. That's one more tech feature about the Pecron that the Jackery definitely does not have. You know, the Jackery's got that flashlight. But thank you guys for watching. I hope this helps you guys out if you're in the market for one of these power stations. You can go to pecron.com, type in Brandon 10% for 10% off one of these power stations. Take it with you on all of your adventures, just like I do. But it's time for me, Crystal, and Pepita to get back on the road and head to the next adventure. So stay tuned, and I will see you guys this Wednesday for the next adventure video.